Hello and welcome to the course of computer networks. In this lecture, you are going to learn about network protocol. If you remember in the previous lecture, we talked about the components, the nuts and bolts of the internet. One of the component was network protocol. So in this lecture, we are going to focus on the network protocol. The agenda for this lecture is that we are going to start with the learning outcomes, and then we will see components of a communication system, and finally we will see the role of the protocol. So let's start with the outcomes. At the end of this lecture, you would be able to explore the components of a communication system, learn the basics of a protocol, how it works, and some of the functionalities of a network protocol. So let's see the component of a communication system. A data communication system has 5 important components. Those components are message, sender, receiver, the medium, and the protocol. Message. The message is actually the information, or you can say the data that need to be communicated between two hosts, two end system, two parties, two people. Popular form of information, the information that you want to communicate, it could be text information or maybe pictures, audio, video, animation, etc. It could be anything. The message could be anything. Who is actually generating the data, generating the message? There is the sender, or you can say the source. That is the second component of the communication system, source or sender. It could be a device that actually sends the message. Here you can see we have a message and we have a sender. This sender is actually generating the message and sending the message. It is a device in this case which actually sends the message. This device here is a computer. It could be a workstation, it could be a server, it could be a telephone headset, it could be a camera, it could be a smartphone, anything. On the other side, we have a third component, that is the receiver, or you can say the destination of the message. The receiver is the device that actually receives this message. It could be again a computer, a workstation, a server, a telephone set, a television, a video camera, it could be a smartphone, anything. However, for communication, for sending this message, we need a medium, a transmission medium. The transmission medium, as you can see, is actually a physical path by which a message travels from the sender towards the receiver. And some examples of this transmission medium include twisted pair cable, coaxial cable, fiber optics, or if we are talking about the wireless communication, then radio waves could take the form of a medium. The final component is protocol, which is actually the focus of this lecture. So what is actually a protocol? To understand the concept of the protocol, let's start with a human analogy. An example: we human beings execute protocols all of the time. For example, what you do when you want to ask someone for the time of the day. A typical exchange of messages is shown in this figure. In this human protocol, there are specific messages like hi from both the side, got the time, it's 2 p.m. for example. All these are specific messages that we send and specific actions that we take in response to receiving these reply messages. For example, if people run different protocols, the protocols do not interoperate and no useful work can be accomplished. If you ask something in a language, if this lady asks something in a language that this guy will not understand, then the communication is useless. The same is true in networking. It takes two communicating parties, two communicating entities, two communicating systems running the same protocol in order to accomplish a task. Now let's consider a second human analogy. Suppose you are in your computer network class and you are confused about a topic. The teacher stopped to ask, is there any question? Now this is a message that is transmitted to, and there is a message that is received by all the students. And then after receiving this message, those who want to ask a question, they will raise their hand. Again, raising the hand is transmitting a message to the teacher. and your teacher will acknowledge this by giving you a smile or saying yes. Again, a message is transmitted, which encourage the student to ask the question, and then the student asks the question. Again, another message has been transmitted to your teacher, and your teacher hears the question, which means the teacher receives your message, and answer mean transmitting a reply. So once again, you can see the transmission and reception of messages, and also a set of actions taken when these messages are sent or when these messages are received. So these things are at the heart of this question answer protocol. Now let's see an example of the network protocol. Again, we have messages communicating between these two entities, parties, and certain actions are taken based on those messages. So a network protocol is actually similar to a human protocol, except that here the entities that are actually exchanging the messages and taking actions are the hardware or software components of some devices. For example, in this particular example, you can see a computer, which is like a client machine, and a server, another computer, which is a server machine. However, it could be tablets, it could be smartphone, it could be gadgets, it could be anything. All activities in the internet that involves two or more communicating entities, that is controlled by a protocol. Protocols are running everywhere in the internet. As an example of a computer network protocol with which you are going to get familiar with the protocol, consider what happens when you make a request to a web server. Suppose this is your web server and this is your machine. So the first thing that you need to do is that you type a URL, for example www.google.com. That is a URL of a web page Google, and you type it into your browser, for example Internet Explorer, Firefox, Mozilla Firefox, or maybe Bravo, etc. And the scenario is illustrated here. First, your computer will send a connection request to the web server, and then it will wait for a response, for a reply. The web server will eventually receive your connection request message and return a connection reply message. So a connection request, connection reply. Once the connection is established, then your computer send the name of the web page, for example .google.com here, and then after your computer send the name of the web page, it want to fetch from this web server. The web server finally will return the web page requested by your web browser. So you see, different messages are communicating between different parties and different actions are taken against different messages. Now, after seeing these examples, let's formally define what is a computer network protocol. A protocols actually define the format and the order of messages that are exchanged between two or more communicating parties. Let me repeat, it will define the format and the order of the messages that are actually exchanged between two communicating parties. Beside from this, the protocol will also define the actions taken on the transmission and or reception of a message. So to put it in simple words, a protocol actually defines set of rules that will control, that will govern the communications between the entities. Two entities are communicating. Who is going to control these messages? The protocol itself. So the protocol is actually an agreement between the two communicating parties. And without a protocol, two devices may be connected but not communicating. So protocol defines what is communicated, how it is communicated, and when it is communicated. In this regard, the key elements of a protocol are mentioned here. The first element of the protocol is syntax, the second is semantic, and the third one is timing. Syntax mean the format of the data. For example, a simple protocol might expect the first 8 bits of data to be the address of the sender, and the second 8 bit to be the address of the receiver, and the rest of the stream of the bits to be the message itself. So the syntax is important. Let's suppose A is sending a message to B. What is going to be the syntax of that message? How many fields are there? For which purpose the fields are dedicated? Let's suppose this packet has 3 fields. So the syntax, the first is the address of the sender, the second field is the address of the destination, and the third field is the message. So this is the syntax of the message, the packet, and this is the duty of the protocol to define this syntax. The second thing is the semantic. The word semantic refers to the meaning of each section. As I just mentioned, for example, the first field is the address of the sender. Second field is the address of the receiver or the destination, and the third field is the message itself. So the semantic, the meaning of each and every section of the bit that is defined by the protocol. For example, you can also give an example like this, that does an address identify the route to be taken or the final destination of the message? Let's suppose you are sending a message from A to B, okay, and you define a route. So this route is the route of the final destination, or sorry, the address is the address of the final destination B, or that is an address of an intermediate node I. So who will tell you this semantic? The protocol itself. And the timing is important. Timing defines when data should be sent and how fast it could be sent. Sometimes the receiver speed is less than the sender speed. For example, if a sender produces data at 100 Mbps, but the receiver can process the data only at 1 Mbps. So the transmission will be overloaded and the receiver will lose some data. In order to protect the receiver from losing the data, the protocol will inform the sender about the speed of the receiver. So the timing is also important, and that is the responsibility of the protocol to define the timing. So in summary, protocol is everywhere in the internet. In the coming lectures, we will be studying different protocols. For example, HTTP is a protocol, SMTP is a protocol, FTP is another protocol, TCP is a protocol, UDP is a protocol, IP is another protocol, similarly OSDP, SD, and etc. So there are several protocols out there in the world of the internet, and some of them we are going to study in this course. So protocol is about communicating parties agreeing on the syntax of the message, on the semantic, and on the timing of the message. Thank you so much for attending the lecture. Take care and goodbye.